Welcome to the deep dive. Ever feel like you've poured resources into market research, hoping for crystal clear answers, but just ended up, well, more confused?
Happens all the time.
Right. So today, we're diving headfirst into exactly that. We're looking at some really sharp insights from cognitive market research, explaining why sometimes it just falls flat.
And crucially, how to fix it. How to actually get the valuable results you need.
Exactly. So if you've ever felt buried under like a mountain of data that didn't really help solve your business problems or, your research efforts just didn't seem to lead anywhere practical.
Then this deep dive is definitely for you. We're drawing heavily on an article by Kalyani Rajay, published back in November 2024 for Cognitive Market Research.
Okay, so our mission today really is to give you a practical handle on the common pitfalls in market research and, importantly, actionable ways to overcome them. We want you to feel confident that your research is actually leading to meaningful insights and, smarter decisions.
Let's get into it then.
All right. So the article starts, quite rightly, with the first step, understanding why. Why isn't your research working? What are some of the core issues?
Well, the article points to a few big ones. First up is flawed research design. Think of it like building a house on dodgy foundations.
Right.
If your framework is weak, maybe your survey questions are ambiguous, or, and this is a big one, your sample isn't representative. The results you get back just aren't going to be reliable.
So garbage in, garbage out, basically.
Pretty much. You need a scientifically sound design, something that's actually geared towards your specific objectives.
Which leads nicely into their next point, inaccurate targeting. So even if the questions are okay, asking the wrong people.
Precisely. It's like asking, I don't know, mechanics about the latest trends in gourmet cheese.
Huh. Yeah, probably not helpful.
You might get answers, but they won't tell you anything about your actual target market. Your data pool, the people you survey or observe, it has to mirror the audience you care about. Their demographics, their psychographics, how they think and behave.
Makes sense. Then there's misaligned objectives. This sounds simple, but I bet it trips people up.
Oh, absolutely. Your research can be perfectly executed, but if the questions you're asking don't actually address the core business problems you're trying to solve, well, the insights are just irrelevant.
So you might find out something interesting, but not something useful for your decision-making.
Exactly. There needs to be a clear line connecting the research questions back to the overall business goals.
And given how fast everything moves, outdated methods seems like another obvious pitfall.
It really is. Markets evolve so quickly. Sticking with old school techniques when there are newer, often better tools available can seriously compromise the quality of your insights.
Like relying on phone surveys when everyone's online.
Sort of, yeah. But also embracing things like modern analytics, data science techniques, social listening. These tools can give you a much more current, much more nuanced view. The article actually mentions how dynamic methods can pick up on sentiment shifts almost in real time, stuff traditional methods would totally miss.
Okay. And then the flip side, not outdated methods, but maybe too much information. Data overload.
Yes. This is such a common struggle today. You can literally be drowning in data points, but if you don't have a clear focus on the key metrics that matter...
You can't see the wood for the trees.
Exactly. You miss the meaningful trends because you're just overwhelmed by the sheer volume. It makes drawing actionable conclusions really, really difficult. It's about finding the signal in the noise.
And the last one they diagnose, which is always a tricky one, bias in data collection and analysis.
Super important. Unconscious biases, even small ones, can creep in at any stage. How you phrase a question, who you choose to survey, how you interpret the results, and completely invalidate your findings.
Without you even realizing it.
Often, yeah. Maintaining objectivity using impartial methods is absolutely critical for data integrity. Requires real discipline.
Okay, now this is interesting. The article throws in a fast fact about companies rethinking traditional research.
Yeah, it highlights this shift. There's a growing recognition that maybe those traditional surveys and focus groups aren't always cutting it anymore, especially on their own.
So what are they shifting towards?
More dynamic tools. Social listening platforms get a specific mention. Think companies like Sprout Social. They're using these platforms to tap into, like, real-time social media data.
So seeing what people are actually saying, unfiltered.
Exactly. It gives you immediate insight into customer sentiment, preferences, emerging trends, stuff you might wait months for with traditional research, or miss entirely. It's like having a continuous pulse on the market.
And they ground this with a real-world example, right? Asana?
Yes, Asana, the project management tool. They apparently made a key shift. Instead of just broad market stuff, they started focusing heavily on direct user feedback.
Talking to the people actually using their product.
Right. Running surveys, specifically asking users about useful features, pain points, areas for improvement. And by doing that, they could align their product roadmap directly with what users actually wanted and needed.
And that boosted satisfaction.
That's the takeaway. It shows how targeted, user-centric research can lead to tangible improvements. It's not just abstract data. It's feedback-driving action.
Okay, so let's say you've done that diagnostic work. You've figured out why your research might be going wrong. What's the next step? Reframing the questions.
Precisely. The article really hammers this point home.
Yeah.
The quality of your questions is paramount. If your questions are broad or unclear or just off, you're setting yourself up for failure.
So vague questions lead to vague answers.
Or worse, misleading answers. You need to formulate questions that are specific, measurable, actionable, and relevant, the whole SMART thing, essentially. This focus guides your data collection properly.
They give a great comparison, don't they, between a weak question and a strong one?
They do. Asking, what do consumers think about our product, is okay, but it's pretty broad.
Right, you could get anything back.
Exactly. Compare that to, what specific factors influence consumers' perception of our product's quality, and how can we improve in those specific areas? See the difference?
Oh, yeah, huge difference. The second one gives you a clear path. You know what you're looking for and what you might do about it.
It's targeted. It moves from just gauging general feeling to identifying concrete levers you can potentially pull. Much more actionable.
Okay, so you've diagnosed the problem, you've sharpened your questions, now we need better data collection, right?
That's the next link in the chain. Poor data collection, either not enough data, or the wrong kind, or just doing it badly is another major reason research fails.
It's not just about quantity then.
Definitely not. It's about getting the right data, the right way, from the right places.
So one recommendation is diversify data sources. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Relying solely on, say, surveys gives you one angle. The article advocates mixing it up. Combine primary research stuff you gather yourself, like surveys, focus groups, interviews with secondary research, existing data like web analytics, industry reports, competitor analysis.
Gives you a more rounded picture.
Much more, a comprehensive view. You get the what from quantitative data maybe, and the why from qualitative.
And technology plays a role here too, obviously. Leverage technology.
Yeah, we touched on this, but it's crucial for collection and analysis. AI-driven analytics, sentiment analysis tools that read the emotion behind text, predictive modeling. These can seriously enhance accuracy.
Finding patterns humans might miss.
Spotting subtle trends, identifying overlooked segments, even predicting future behavior with some degree of accuracy. It adds a whole other layer to your understanding.
What about A/B testing? How does that fit in?
A/B testing is great for validation. So maybe your research suggests a certain message will resonate better. With A/B testing, you can actually test it out.
Like showing two different website headlines to different visitors.
Exactly. Version A to one group, version B to another. See which one gets better results, more clicks, signups, whatever your goal is. It helps you confirm your hypotheses in the real world before you commit fully. Reduces risk.
And finally, in this section, adopt agile research practices. Sounds like being flexible.
It is. Markets change fast, remember. Agile research means not getting locked into a massive, rigid 6-month study. It's more iterative.
Little and often.
Kind of. You run shorter research cycles, get findings quickly, discuss them, adjust your approach, and go again. It keeps the research relevant and allows you to adapt as you learn or as the market shifts. Much more dynamic.
Okay, this next bit feels really fundamental. Addressing biases and assumptions. Because we all have them.
We absolutely do. And the article is clear. These biases, conscious or not, can totally poison the well at any stage. If you want research that genuinely reflects the market, you have to tackle bias head-on.
So how do you do that? The first strategy is carefully evaluate research questions.
Right. This goes back to phrasing. You need neutral language. Avoid leading questions that nudge people towards a certain answer.
Like their example, why do you like our product? That assumes they do like it.
Exactly. Compared to the much more neutral, what are your thoughts on our product? It opens the door for positive, negative, or neutral feedback.
And they suggest getting a second pair of eyes on the questions.
Yes. Peer reviews or running small pilot tests can really help catch subtle biases in wording that you might miss yourself.
The second strategy is interesting. Implement blind analysis. What does that involve?
Basically, you have multiple researchers look at the same data, but independently. They don't know the specific hypotheses being tested or what results are hoped for.
So they just analyze the raw data.
Yeah. Then you compare their conclusions. If different people working blind come to similar interpretations, it really boosts your confidence in the findings.
And if they come up with different interpretations.
That's a red flag. It means you need to dig deeper, look again at the data, question the analysis methods, figure out why the interpretations diverge. It forces a more rigorous examination.
Okay, last stage. Analyzing and interpreting the data you've collected. Doing it holistically.
Yeah, this is where it all comes together. You can do everything else right, but if you misread the data at the end,
All that effort is wasted.
or worse, you make bad decisions based on flawed interpretations.
So point one, look for trends, not outliers. Don't get distracted by weird one-offs.
Exactly. It's easy to seize on an unusual data point, an anomaly, but often it's just that, an anomaly. It doesn't represent the broader market reality. Focus on the consistent patterns, the overall trends. That's where the reliable insights usually lie.
But they add a little warning there too, right? About recurring outliers.
Good point, yes. If you see the same outlier popping up repeatedly, don't just ignore it. It could be an early indicator of a new emerging trend, or maybe it signals an issue with how you collected the data. Worth investigating.
Point two, contextualize your findings. Data needs perspective.
Absolutely critical. A number on its own means very little. You need to interpret your findings within the bigger picture. How does this compare to industry benchmarks, to your own historical data? What's happening in the market right now?
So that example they gave, increased demand, looks great.
But if everyone's demand is increasing because the whole market is growing, it doesn't mean you're necessarily outperforming competitors. It's just a general uplift. Context prevents misinterpretation.
And the final piece of advice for analysis? Use data visualization. Make it easy to see.
Yes. Graphs, charts, heat maps, dashboards. These tools are fantastic for making complex data understandable at a glance.
Our brains are wired for visuals.
They really are. Visualizations can eliminate trends, patterns, and relationships that are just buried in spreadsheets of raw numbers. It makes it so much easier for stakeholders to grasp the key takeaways and make informed decisions based on the data. Plus, good visuals help keep everyone on the same page.
Okay, so pulling all this together, it sounds like making market research truly effective isn't about one magic bullet.
Not at all. It's a whole process. It needs that solid design up front, the right targeting, objectives clearly tied to business needs, up-to-date methods, a really focused analysis, and this constant awareness of potential bias.
And crucially, being willing to reassess and adapt if things aren't working.
That's key. The article really stresses that. If your initial efforts fall short, don't just push ahead. Step back, figure out why, and adjust your strategy.
So for you, listening in, wanting to get knowledgeable without getting bogged down, understanding these potential traps and knowing these strategies can really help make sure your research delivers those valuable insights you're after.
Definitely. It helps you cut through the noise and focus on what matters. Which leads us to a final thought, something for you to maybe mull over.
Okay.
Given the sheer volume and the variety of data available now, social media, web analytics, IoT data, all sorts of things, how do you see the balance shifting, between those traditional research methods and these newer, more dynamic approaches like real-time social listening? What does that ongoing evolution mean for truly understanding your market in the future?